Hey everybody, so in this tutorial we're going to learn how to add on to the VRTK Beta 4 basic tutorial so that when you interact with the interactable objects and snap them in and out of snap zones, you can cause other things to occur using the Unity scripting. What I'll focus on in this tutorial is a few basic interactions with things. We'll learn how to change a scene, and we'll learn how to make other game objects change size and or position and rotation. So follow along if this is something you'd like to learn. So what I have here is the basic farm scene in VRTK, and I just added a couple of things onto it. I added these things using Mark Suter's great tutorial. I'm going to show this to you in Chrome real quick, and the link to this is in the description of this video, so you can click on it there. VR in Unity, a beginner's guide using VRTK. So it shows you how to use the VRTK objects to add objects that you can grab in VR and then snap them into snap zones and other basic things that you can do. It's a great tutorial, very useful. We're going to build onto that and learn how to make snapping the objects into snap zones cause other actions to happen. So what I did is I made an object that's this pink cube, and the pink cube is a grabbable object. And then this pink cube over here is a snap zone for it using the tutorial. So what I want to do is first make it so that when I take this pink cube and I pick it up and I snap it into the snap zone, it's going to change the scene. It'll teleport me to a different location, just like magic. So in order to do this, we have to create a new scene in Unity. So in my same scenes folder that I have the VRTK example scene, I've created a new scene, and this one's called Space, and I'll just take you there so you can see it. Before I go over there, I'm going to do one quick thing, and I'm going to grab the VRTK setup, and I'm going to copy it. So I just click on this in the hierarchy, the VRTK setup, and do Control-C. This will copy the camera rigs and everything in VR. If you'd also like to capture the teleporting and controllers, you need to grab also the VRTK prefabs that you can see right there. So you'll copy both of them. Anyway, I've copied VRTK setup, and I'm going to go into my space scene. Get ready for it. It's thinking. There it is. Okay, it's a pretty boring space scene. What I did is I just made a plane, and I put a nebula texture on the plane, and then I added a space skybox. This isn't going to look perfectly spacey, but it should be a reasonable approximation. You can play with this. It might be better actually if you just get rid of the plane and just do the skybox, but it's your scene, it's your creativity. You can do whatever you want. And in this scene, I'm going to click on the main scene here in the hierarchy and do a Control-V to paste my VR camera rig. And then since I have this one, I can now get rid of the main camera. So I'll click on the main camera and just mash the delete button. Goodbye. And then for the VRTK setup, to really make it seem like I'm floating in space, I'm just going to lift it up a little bit like so. So right now it's at Y is 16. I'm going to make that even higher. Let's make it like 25. So it'll really feel like I'm levitating in space. Fun. Okay, this looks good. I'm going to save the scene. And then before I can add some scripting to change the scene, I have to do one important thing. Go to File, go to Build Settings. Now, since I've done this tutorial before, I already have this scene added to my build settings, but it's really important that you do this before you try to change the scene. So if you don't see this in there, let's just pretend I'm going to right-click and say Remove Selection. Let's say my space scene isn't in there. You can either have it open and click Add Open Scenes, or you can pick it up from your Project Explorer down here and just drag it over to the Scenes in Build and drop it there, and then it will be added to your build. You don't need to click Save, just exit out of this with the little red X, and your scene has been added to your build. I'm going to go back to the example scene so that I can add this interaction to my pink cube. So double click. Okay, back to the farm scene. I'm going to zoom back in here because I zoomed out pretty far in the previous scene. Okay, now I have my pink cube and I have the snap zone. I want to make it so that this snap zone will cause me to switch to the new scene. So I'm going to go to my Assets folder, the main Assets folder in the Project Explorer. And then I've already created a new folder called Scripts. If you don't have this folder, just right-click and say Create, and you'll do folder and make it called scripts. And then I'll open this, and I'm going to add a new script to this folder. Right click, create, C# script. Okay, and I'm going to nickname it snap zone behavior. And you can call it anything you want. You can call it Fred. That's fine. So I'll double click on this script to edit it so you can see what the scripting language looks like. C# is similar to many programming languages you've probably worked with. Curly braces, semicolons. It's an object-oriented language. But even without knowing its object-orientedness, you can do some fancy things with it. So basically, anytime you make a new script, you're going to get a skeleton that looks like this. And it starts off with the some using statements. We are going to need to add one so that we can do scene management. So we'll say using Unity engine dot scene management. And when it shows up in the tooltip, you can double click on it and then hit a semicolon. So it's important to add that in there so that the correct library is in. And then there's a public class, snapZone behavior. It's really important that any code you add to this gets added to that public class. Anytime you make a new script, you usually get the functions start and update, and these comments tell you what those functions do. You can add code to these, but we're not going to. We're going to make our own function in here. So I'm going to go to the curly braces at the end of void update and add a few blank lines. I have to make sure I add any new code before this final curly brace here so that it's enclosed inside the public class. And then at this point, I'm going to create my new function. It's important that I make it public so that it can be seen from inside the Unity structure. Public void, and I will name this function go to scene. And then inside the parentheses will stay string scene name with a capital N. And then I need a curly brace, and it automatically generates the closed curly brace. Those little curly braces look like kind of sideways mustaches, and they're right above the double quotes key on your keyboard. So what this function is, it's called goToScene, and it's going to take one parameter called scene name. So I can put any scene name into this function that I want to, and it will take me to the correct scene. Inside, it's just 2 lines of code. So our first line of code is we'll actually go to the scene, and in the second line of code, we'll just add a debug comment. So we'll say scene manager, double click when you see it in the tooltip, dot load scene. And inside the parentheses, we're just going to put in the scene name that we're calling it from. So that input parameter. It's important to end all of your commands with a semicolon. And then I like to add little debug statements to my functions just to make sure they were really called. So we'll say debug.log, all this with a capital letter. And in the quotes, we'll say changed the scene. Perfect. That's it. Those are the only lines of code you need to enter in order to take yourself to another scene. So once you've got that taken care of, we'll do File. We'll do a Save. And then we're ready to take this script and attach it to the snapZone back in Unity. So I'm going to go back down to my taskbar and click on Unity again. And now let's go to the pink snapZone. I can either click on it here in the scene, or I can click on it in the hierarchy, pink cube snapZone. And first of all, it looks like I have a script that I removed from before, so you don't have to do this step. I'm just removing a ghost of a script. Okay, what you will do is you'll click on Add Component, and then we're going to add the script that we just made. Remember, I called it snapZone behavior, so I'll start typing in the word snap in the little search bar, and it brings up snapZone behavior. This search adds spaces to it instead of making it all one word. Don't let it fool you, it's the same script. So just click on that, and it adds the script to the snapZone. And next, I want to change the scene after I've successfully snapped the cube into the snapZone. So there's an event under Zone Events called Snapped. Expand that, and currently there's nothing that happens when you snap the cube into the snapZone. It just snaps there. To add an event, or an event handler, you click the plus to add to the list, and it gives you a blank here that says none object. This is where you're going to drag your script. I pick it up from here and drag it into none object. Now it shows up as the script that's going to run when the object is snapped, but we don't know what function will run yet. So we pull down this little menu, and we want to run a function from snap zone behavior. And then we're going to get goToScene with the string parameter. Okay. And finally, goToScene takes one parameter, and that's the name of the scene we're going to go to. I have to make sure I type it in exactly correctly, so I'm going to go back to my scenes folder, and the scene that I'm going to go to is called space with a capital S, so I have to type it in just like that. Space with a capital S. So that's where you put in the parameter of scene name, and then it will go to that scene. That's all we should need to do. I think we're in a pretty good place here. That looks great. So we're ready to go ahead and test it. You get to see me look awkward with the VR headset on while this thing runs and takes us to the space scene. So I'll run over to the Oculus here in the corner. Here we are. It's thinking. Wait for it. Oh, it had to load the Oculus software, but I'm back in Unity now. Okay, now we got it. So I'm going to put the headset on, grab the touch controllers, and I got a pop-up menu I need to clear. And the hands are reversed. I can do this. Okay, so now that I'm in Unity, I'm just going to teleport to get closer to my cube here, and I'll pick it up. And then I'm going to teleport to where the snap zone is. And if I hold the cube over the snap zone, you can see I get the little highlight. And I let it go, and it snaps in place. And now my headset's showing me an hourglass. It's thinking. Wait for it. And now I'm in space. And I'm levitating over this big black plane with an endless skybox around me. So it looks pretty great. Almost feels like I'm legitimately in space. So that's how that works. I'm going to go ahead and pardon me, put those down again. I'm going to go ahead and get out of play mode so I can show you the next thing. Okay, and you can also see my little debug message down in the corner, by the way, that says change the scene. That's what showed up in the script. So that's how to change a scene when you snap something into place. Next, we're going to add some scripts that can interact with other objects in the scene around us. So to do this, rather than type in the commands one by one, I'm just going to copy and paste them. So let me go back to that script that I had, and it's currently open in Visual Studio, but if it weren't, I could just double-click on scripts and double-click on the snap zone behavior, and it should take me there. And then what I'll do is I'm going to copy these next few functions from a Google Doc, and I will add a link to this in the video description. So hold on a second. Okay, I was going to say, I think I must have deleted things I didn't mean to delete, but they're there. So I'm going to copy these three functions: toggle active, enlarge, and normal size. Control-C to copy. And then I'll go over to Visual Studio. And after goToScene, but before this final curly brace, I'm going to do Control-V to paste. Now these are just some examples of ways that you can interact with other objects in the scene. So in these three functions, toggle active, enlarge, and normal size, they each take one parameter, which is a GameObject. And you can load any GameObject that exists in your scene into that parameter. What toggle active does is first it creates a variable called isActive, and it sets that to be either true or false based on whether that GameObject, G, is currently active or not. And then it sets its active status to be the opposite. So if it was active, it sets it to be not active. And if it was not active, it sets it to be active. That exclamation mark operator in front of the isActive is the not operator. So not is active. Hopefully that makes sense. Enlarge will take the GameObject, and it sets its transform local scale property to be a new scale factor. This is going to enlarge that object by a factor of 5. 5 times bigger on the X, 5 times bigger on the Y, 5 times bigger on the Z. And then the normal size operator is very similar, but it sets the scale factor of that object to be just 1 again. 1 on the X, 1 on the Y, 1 on the Z. If you do a little bit of searching on this transform data member, then you can also see other properties you can change, such as its position and its rotation and things like that. Most Google searches should take you straight to the Unity documentation to do that. And I strongly recommend you use the Unity documentation and just copy and paste the examples. So that's what those do. Let's now attach them to our Unity objects right after we save. There we go. And we're going back over to Unity, and we'll click on the pink snap zone. And let's just test each of those scripts out just for fun. Clicking on the pink snap zone. There we go. Okay, so in this case, instead of doing the go to scene behavior, we're going to keep the same script, and I changed the script since then, but that should be updated in these menu choices. So I'll pull down this menu, and it lets me pick snap zone behavior. And then up here, see, now I have my new members in large, toggle active, and normal size. Let's start with toggle active. And for the game object that I'm going to toggle active, I'm going to use this little chicken right here. So I will find my chicken, its name in the hierarchy is chicken brown, and I'll pick up chicken brown and put it in the parameter. Right now it says none game object. Now it is chicken brown game object. And so now when I snap the cube into its snap zone, it's going to turn the chicken to be inactive or active again based on what it used to be. So let's test it. It's thinking. I'll get the headset. Wait for it. Okay, I'm going to kneel down so you can see me better. There's chicken brown. Okay, first I'll teleport over to get my cube. And then I will teleport over here. And I see you, chicken brown. Okay, watch chicken brown as I snap the cube into place. And now chicken's gone. What? Pick up the cube again. Snap the cube in place again. The chicken's back. It's just like magic. Okay, see how that works? So that is toggle active. Next, I'm going to get out of play mode. Let's just do the enlarge and normal size. I don't want to scare you, but the chicken's going to get big. So as before, we have the new functions added. Instead of doing toggle active, we'll make this one snap zone behavior, enlarge, and it's still going to enlarge chicken brown. This time I'm going to add an event to the unsnapped action. So when I take the cube out of its snap zone, then we'll put chicken brown back to its normal size. So just as before, we'll click on the plus to add a script to unsnapped. And I'll pick up snap zone behavior and drag it into the field that says none object. Pull down the menu that says no function and make it be snap zone behavior, normal size. And the game object is, let's get chicken brown and snap it in there. Okay, by the way, I got chicken brown from a free asset package of farm animals on the asset store. He didn't come with VRTK, which is a shame, but he's available in the asset store if you need him. Okay, let's do a quick test of enlarging and reducing chicken brown. Move this out of the way. Wait for it. Okay. So again, I'll teleport over and pick up the cube. Teleport to where the snap zone is. I see you, chicken. Okay, wait for it. I'm going to snap the cube in. And now we have a ridiculously large chicken, 5 times its normal size in all directions. And when I pick up the cube, chicken brown is back to its normal size. Big chicken, small chicken, and so on. You can use these interactions to do a variety of things. Play sounds, play videos, make objects move, make things chase you, start animations. So just play with your imagination with what you can do with these scripts and interactions. Thanks for watching.